two where it needs to work. Every rider, let's see it. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Great. Is there anyone from the public that would like to address the board? For a second time, is there anyone from the public that would like to address the board? For a third and final time, is there anyone from the public that would like to address the board? Not. We will move on to administration status of schools.
I'd like to be there, but well, here.
Sure, whatever you want.
Trying to move on from that. So I have two important items to talk to you tonight. One is obviously the metal detectors, which were implemented today. Both Rob and Dana are here, so they can answer any specific questions about things you may have heard or what could have happened or whatnot. The first thing is, again, I do wish we had the chance to make a presentation prior, but because of the Christmas holiday and I know the board members were sick, we just didn't get a chance to do that. So I wanted to get the information out to you guys as soon as possible. And again, I do apologize because it's a big deal and it's a big change, and I never like to have you guys get caught off guard. You should be able to answer questions if somebody says, "Hey, what are you doing? What are you doing?" So let me say this is how it came about. And I sent you guys an email that says the thing that kind of put me over the top was that headline in the New York Post that says School of Thought. We actually implemented, the School of Brooklyn implemented metal detectors, and the first day they found like 21 weapons. So that was kind of the straw that broke the camel's back, so to speak. I believe our schools are safe, and I think this year we have done an amazing job welcoming a lot of kids back. We have a lot of new students. We have a lot of new students from all over the place. I mean, not just locally, moved from Hampton to West Haven, which does occur, in Haven, West Haven, and back and forth. But we've gotten kids, a lot of students from New York. We've gotten students from Chicago. We've got students from pretty much all up and down the East Coast. And that's a good thing. I mean, you know, people settled in West Haven. They want their kids to get a good education. It's a brand new building. That's terrific. But what we have seen this year, and again, I don't believe we're any different than any other school in the country, is a lot of arguing, higher than normal number of fights. Our expulsions and suspensions are up this year, so that's a little bit concerning. But what's even more concerning, so you guys know what happens is anytime there's an arrest from a resident of West Haven, student age resident of West Haven, by law, the arresting police department notifies the superintendent of that city, because even though things happen off campus, if it can be related to school or somehow tied to the school, or there's a weapon involved, actually it's mandatory, we don't have the right to. We have to move forward with an expulsion. And it's 180 days if there's a weapon involved. And we have seen an uptick in those kinds of incidents outside of school. Again, inside of school, there's been no evidence of a firearm at all that we know. And I want to make that really clear. But given the kinds of things that we were seeing outside of school, that made us very concerned, very concerning. We also saw, like, for example, one of our students on TikTok was playing with a gun. Yeah. And I don't know if the gun was real, if it wasn't real, or whatnot, but it did create a disturbance in West Haven High School. A lot of kids found out about it. Kids were nervous about it. And there does seem to be like and again, I don't know if it's just a thing with the age group, the need to quote unquote protect themselves. And so we, again, as an administrative team, we became very, very concerned. So, you know, between the arrest reports and some of the things we were seeing off campus, just prior to the Christmas break, for example, it was in Newtown, Watertown, someplace. One of our students actually was arrested for stealing a gun off the passenger seat of a car. So, you know, we kind of said, yeah, we've been talking about this for a long, long time. We really need to get something going. So the first question is, how do we pay for it? And did a lot of, thinking about that. And I believe we could have used ESSER money and Matt for the Bailey ones. I may have mistakenly said we were going to pay for it on our maintenance account, but we are going to use that as an eligible expense. But I did speak to Ken Carney, who's here tonight, actually helped us get through the process of actually purchasing the metal detectors. There was a security line for the high school budget. The original plan for the security was to put in metal detectors, which you didn't even know were around. You would walk through them, they would buzz, and I don't know the specifics, but it became cost prohibitive and got value engineered out. However, there's still money for security. Ken, you can talk about, maybe for a minute, how I contacted you, and then we saw that we had the money available. And then how it came about that we found the company and whatnot, we're able to make the purchase.
Actually, one of the ones that just vibrates and also makes sounds. So in our original design for high school, we have a list of all the security features. We never paid a public. One of those features was to do built-in metal detector. Early on, we were a problem with the amount of our tickets, very small tickets, $5.2 million. We had to take that. With the understanding that only being available in the contingency, we put it back in. Well, obviously, we put it back in, we can't put it back in, but the doors out. So we went to the old units. And those units are plug units, we're also charging. Plug unit charging, move around, and we use a company called Garrett. Garrett, who turned out to be least expensive. Garrett is kind of an interesting company. They are owned company who sells these products at a great discount. She doesn't need money. She wants to go to but the price was bad. So I have done my budget. Purchase as planned from 2017. And
Yeah, so again, Ken was helpful. Antonazzi Associates, who are our architect, actually gave us the company recommended the company. So that being said, we also thought that, given the timing of it, this is probably 3 or 4 weeks ago, we actually started talking about it and, discussing with security, administrative teams. The police department was also very helpful. We said, look, if we can get them in, if we can get a plan together, ideally the first day to implement them would be the day after the Christmas break. And again, I think I said this to you in my memo, is that we didn't want to surprise anybody. Our goal was not to catch people doing things wrong. Our goal was to say, we want to create a safe environment. We have a safe environment. Don't bring them, don't bring any weapons, knives, whatever, to protect yourself. Vape pens, we heard, I don't know the numbers, but we heard we're going to set the record for catching vape pens eventually. That's the thing you get the most of, because kids leave those in the book bags. We also heard things like from Garrett when we met with the representatives was like, eventually kids don't want to be bonded, so they'll stop wearing belts, they won't bring change or whatnot. The other thing that we did, and again, I would never say anything negative about another school district, but I think Hamden did it kind of quickly. They started with just the wands. We didn't want to do that. We wanted to have machines up and ready to go. They did it after 3 days off, and after, unfortunately, an incident happened, and we didn't want to get that. But what we did do was we sent a team of an administrator, our head security guard, Mike Ebram, for those of you that know Mike and have been to district events, does a great job with the security team. And we also sent Dave Rivera, who's our school resource officer, to Hamden High School and to Hill outside. Now, what was nice about doing that is Hill House has had the metal detectors for as long as I can remember. I remember coaching basketball 20, 25 years ago. Anytime you walked into a gym, you went through a metal detector. So we saw, the best in action, a well-oiled machine. We saw Hamden, which actually, I think when they went there was on the first or second day, where they actually had the machine up and running, and they only had one machine. We've got plenty, and we can get more up and running if we need to. The problem with that is that you need 2 to 3 people per machine. You need one to watch the student walk in, one to check the book bag, and one to wand the child or the student. So it's a little bit of a process, and we need to refine it. We might be able to get down to 2 people, maybe open up another couple of machines. But I'll tell you, and again, I'm going to thank the staff at both Bailey and West Haven High School. For example, I called Mike Anquilleri today, who's our co-athletic director. Called him at about 6:30 this morning, but about 7 o'clock this morning. Mike, you in school yet? Yeah. He says, there's a lot of us here because, we're starting a metal detector. So a lot of people came in to help with the process. And as a result, of good planning with the security company, cooperation from the staff, police department, Dana 7:54 is we were in by, and we were actually able to start classes at 10 after 8 or something.
No, 3 o'clock to 7:55. Usually, last one starts at 7:45 after the 7:55 today, so we're about checking it off. Just be expected.
Actually, I didn't expect it. I expected this to be a good half hour to an hour late. And I know Hamden, when they started, I remember watching Fox 61 on the first day. It was about 10 o'clock in the morning, and they were wanding the kids through. So that went really well. I know I drove by Bailey at around 7:30, and I thought things proceeded really well. Rob Owen is here. For those of you who don't know, he's the principal at Bailey. Rob, if you both of you want to give your overall impressions and answer if they guys have any questions. They can hear you better. It might be good. For those
Come
of you,
on up.
I talk too much.
First of all, thank you all for supporting this change. It was with a little bit of hesitancy that we welcome this because no one wants to think that we need this measure of safety, but the reality is with everything going on in society, it just makes our kids feel better, it makes our staff feel better, and I think anything that's going to make our community feel more safe is a good thing. So we were really excited to do it today. As Neil said, we had a large number of staff members show up to help with the first day, so I thought that was great. I think it really helped with just giving kids directions so that they all knew where to put everything and where to walk. Some of the kids were a little nervous. I saw a meme on Facebook one time and it just resonated with me today. It said, "Do you ever walk through airport security and be worried that you accidentally have a gun? Even though you don't own a gun, but you just had to get that feeling." And I think some kids have that today when they beat, they're like, oh my God, what is it?" I'm like, "It's so you don't buckle your shoelace or whatever it is." We had a lot of staff to help, and I had asked part of the Christmas break for staff to volunteer to come in early today. And I thought, well, everyone thinks this is a good idea today, but are they going to think that at 6 a.m. after the Christmas break? So when I got here this morning about 20 after 6, and I said, oh, I'm just going to hope at least half of them show up. And I think 99% did, so that was great. We didn't find anything at all, which I really thought was pretty novel. I thought we were going to be finding a lot of little, big pens and little things like that today, but really found nothing, which I thought was great. Even checked the bushes outside just out of curiosity, and I didn't see anything out there either. Yeah, I was curious. But it was really pretty smooth. I think the kids were ready for it. The kids knew what to do. The kids were prepared. The kids were really, really cooperative. I mean, I don't think we got one kid that gave us any kind of, difficult time or anything like that. I think the parents really supported it, and I think that's the most important thing. And I think when the kids went to school this morning, their parents said, this is a good thing, this is a good idea, and they really supported it. The process was smooth. I think by the end of this week, we will probably be able to start the first period on time. I think I anticipate running a little bit behind through the end of the week, just as we get faster with the backpack searches, faster with the wanding. We were all kind of just learning to operate the wands over this week, so I think it took a little bit more time than it will. I know Kim came to watch this morning and watch the process and had some good feedback for us, so we were happy to hear that.
What else is there left to say? Again, I thank you for your support for this, and Kim is coming over tomorrow, which I appreciate. She's going to watch our process. I would reiterate what Dana said. It's really a team effort. Parents, students, and staff, and I think the community in general is supportive of what we're doing. It's the bottom line is it's for the safety of the kids. So we'll work out the kinks and we'll dot the I's and cross the T's as we move along this week. But yeah, I pretty much went with Dana. I about 10 to 15 minutes later than usual in starting block one, which is a win for us. And again, no baits, nothing like that. I got a little Black & Decker drill that some young man had that was his dad's. I talked all that, he got it, but that was it in terms of finding anything in the book bags or anything like that. The kids were calm and they were cooperative. And I think you had said that for the high school. So, and I also asked, the only change I'll make from today to tomorrow is I had the 3 out front for the bus drop off, which worked great. The line outside for the drop off, for the pickup for parents and the drop off was a little longer than I wanted to. So I am gonna have a second one over there. So we'll have 2. We started with 4 today and we're gonna go with 5 tomorrow. You got that right over there, so I appreciate that. So it's really all systems go. I don't know if you have any questions, certainly.
We had one staffing today with the metal detector at the student parking lot entrance that was calibrated correctly. So rather than keep the kids outside, we just had them come around to the parent drop-off entrance, which it was that line a little longer than we wanted, and it didn't allow the students to come in before that's right by the parking lot, but that's all correct. So that'll be tomorrow. It's a little bit of a learning curve with sensitivity, kind of found our number where we need to be. We're not doing every rivet and every tiny thing, but it's
I just want to say, look, it's no small success of the first day. Just North Park East guy, because they gave up a lot of time over the before Christmas break, through the Christmas break, making sure that things were as smoothly as possible. Got the word out, which was really important, and that was important to us too. Respond to this. We don't care, but we want people to know what we have is that it's come from the West. We welcome everybody, but we don't want to.
I certainly want to thank Mikey Ron, who spent his Sunday helping us yesterday. We really wanted to make sure everything was good for today. And we came in with yesterday and made sure everything was calibrated and
I'd also say that he's been back and forth from high school to daily this morning as we adjusted things. So
calibrated, yeah, we calibrated earlier in the week, but I had to look at it yesterday and didn't stay calibrated. Like, yeah, it was yesterday.
Thanks. It sounds like it went really smoothly. I had a lot of positive feedback from parents and other community members on the increased safety factor at both of the schools. I just have a question about operational issues. Recently, coming back from Orlando, in the theme parks, you can go through the metal detector with your bag. They don't do a separate bag check. Is that something based on the machines that we have? Maybe Ken can find that answer out, or does it have to be a separate bag check? Because that might speed things up.
Well, I think based on what we saw at Hill House, we decided to actually do the separate bag check because it's actually sped the line up.
And unfortunately, some of the guns and things you order at each other are plastic.
Okay.
So that was our big concern there. We're going to do this right, and a lot of homemade put together things are plastic.
Awesome. Thank you.
question, Jennifer Cross. Do you feel like you have a robust policy and process in place to find something?
Definitely, and I think Superintendent Cavallero spoke just a few minutes ago about the policies that are in place as far as weapons. The nice thing about the weapons policies for Connecticut is you don't actually have to make any decisions. Those are very clear laws. Any firearm, even facsimile firearm, is an immediate referral for expulsion. It's not even a choice for us. So anything that would be kind of that next tier down, knife is still considered a weapon, still is a referral for expulsion, and then it would be the hearing officer has to come off of expulsion before, but they're very clear cut laws, so it's nice that you even have to really think policy in that sense. There are laws that govern that.
Jennifer, also, the other thing, when we met as an administrative team, the police department, and the security team, we really did our best to define the roles. In other words, when should the police step in? When is it just an administrative, like a small pocket knife, for example? We just take the knife away, discipline the kid, and move on. Or when do we actually put the police? And again, I think the law speaks to a lot of how we would handle that any differently, with or without medical care. We don't want to overreact. We're not just going to arrest kids for the sake of arresting them. In other words, we need to make sure that it's a police matter or whether or not it's a school.
And thank you for clarifying that. And I was speaking a little bit more about the actual physical process that happens in real time versus like the actual. I wanted to make sure you guys felt.
Yeah, we have our SROs who are there with us and working the process. They aren't involved in the fact or anything like that. Because laws and government police do that, but they're there and if there's anything at all where it becomes a matter, they're there. It's just not like our SROs are excellent. I have a DW team who sometimes have additional water at high school, so I work with just about every SRO.
We have a much lower threshold to search a book bag, to search a locker, with reasonable suspicion, where police need probable cause, which is much more question.
How about after
So for sporting events, we are going to use metal detectors. The exception would be the actual team. So the teams will not go through detectors, but any practitioners will go through detectors. We set up the process a little bit differently. We actually just did it for the first time today for National Committee. We put the buckets out, you empty your pockets into buckets, kind of like the general battery like that. Pockets into buckets, you go through, get your bucket back, and
We also, Andrea, Mike Aguilera, co-athletic director, as I mentioned earlier, he actually puts the gyms and facilities. So, we're making it our call as to, we think this kind of an event, you're going to hire a security guard. We're going to make these metal detectors, and we're going to make it part of the expense no different than hiring a custodian. I think there could be some latitude. I don't know that we need it for youth basketball on a Saturday. Years, but there may be some nighttime events that we would consider. And I've also let the principals at all of the schools know for night activities to start really ramping up, especially in the spring. Sure, Paul, if you feel you need it, as Rob mentioned, and I mentioned earlier, we get them. They're mobile. We can use them at the stadium. They can even be left outside, by the way, in cold, rain, weather if need. So we have that discretion. I think it's going to be, we're going to feel it out for a while. Mike is really good about money for the facilities, but he's also good about, if you're going to come to our facilities, we want you here. These are the rules. A lot of the outside.
So less likely for cheer practice or basketball practice, more likely for a cheer competition, a softball game, a hockey game.
Right.
We're expecting spectators.
The gym for basketball, 25 Saturday. Outside of maybe our coach, you know, that we we're bringing kids from all over the place.
Okay.
Again, I think it will become clearer as this evolves and we get into it. And throughout the day, I'm sure you're doing the same thing. You know, I have 4 today, so I took 3 away after we got everybody in. They're getting charged. Then we put 1 on the only entrance into the building for any visitors, and they go through the same process with the security station.
Battery makes the part.
It's good, yeah. Thank you. I may need you for the next segment too. So,
Give a commercial break.
yeah. So obviously, we're talking a little bit about COVID and, you know, the rapidly changing rules and whatnot. What I passed out to you today was, and this will be up on our website tomorrow, we'll get an email out with a link. It's the updated consideration for quarantine, isolation, testing, and contact tracing policies and procedures from pre-K to 12 schools. I think it does simplify the process. It's going to make our jobs a little bit easier, but I think if you really read between the lines, what it's going to do is it's going to allow us to keep schools open and lessen the amount of quarantining that's going on, and I think that's a good thing. I really do. So that will be up tomorrow. I was a little bit frustrated because it seemed like we closed our offices at 2 o'clock for the holiday on Wednesday, and we were really flooded with. And actually, Kim, I sent you a couple of the things that we sent out. The memos were just coming and coming, and so you know I was kind of mad because it's fine you're sending it to me, and I could forward it to our administrators, whatnot. But in order to implement these things, you know, we needed to get people in a room, and we needed to figure out like how are we going to come up with a remote learning policy, a limited remote learning policy. In other words, I do not have the discretion, for those of you that don't know, to close the schools. One of the things that was made extremely clear is there's only one person who can do that. Well, the legislature can do it through a legislative act. That's not likely to happen. The governor is the only person who can say the schools are going to be closed. The reason we were able to do remote learning in less than the number of days last year is because what he waived, in effect, was the 180-day requirement and 900 minimum hours of instruction requirement. That is not waived this year. So we're obligated to meet those thresholds in order to, you know, to be an accredited school this year. So we again, our administrative team, in my opinion, did a terrific job today. You know, our first priority, as you can imagine, was to cover every classroom. You know, if need be, we pulled support in order to cover classes. And we were able to do that. In fact, if you look at the staff report by school, it was actually better than I thought it would be because I had figured as a district would be about 20%. You know, thinking that that's the average positivity rate, and we were actually a little bit under that as a district. So that was good. The staff came to work today, and we were able to provide coverage for our classes. Our student attendance, again, as a district, 78%, which isn't bad. You know, you figure with a lot of kids, you know, either positive or showing symptoms. Parents did the right thing and kept the kids home. That's right about where you would expect we would be as a district. So I'm really pleased with that.
All those flights canceled this weekend and they didn't get home from vacation yet.
That could be too. Hopefully we'll get more kids back. That would be great. But again, it's early in the week, and I'm hoping for a snow day on Friday, so I only have 3 days to go. But again, overall, I was really, really pleased with the attendance today by both staff and students. We a couple of other items. We will be picking up tomorrow. We're sending our maintenance crew to pick up testing kits. Our first priority will be to distribute enough for staff at the schools. based on how many we get, because right now I think, Chris, it's 31 boxes, correct? We don't, 31 cases, but we really don't know how many kids are in a box, so we'll get them out to the schools for staff, and then we'll have to figure out a fair method to distribute them to our families, because I don't want to say people will take advantage, but if you have a child in 3 schools, we really don't want you going to 3 schools, so we have to figure out a way to kind of evenly disperse the kits, make them available. You can see that contact tracing is no longer recommended, so that would limit us in quarantining people. One of the things that they did send out, part of the memos that changed from last week, which is a big change, is you can, under limited circumstances, offer remote learning, but it has to be very limited. The challenge for that is that it was fairly easy last year with the shortened school day to be able to do that, and with the number of kids that were in school and out of school, it was kind of easy to set up a schedule. Keep in mind that our first priority is covering the classrooms inside, so a lot of our support staff is busy covering classes, and the teachers are working a full day, so it makes it difficult to set those programs up. But I have asked all of the schools to come up with a plan. What we also want to make sure happens is that it's legitimate. In other words, if you truly have an elderly person who's at high risk in your home, we may ask for documentation or medical proof for that person as opposed to the student, because that would make it, to me, seem more legitimate that you are going to be, this child or this family is really in need of something like that. And I mean this, I'm a big believer, like everyone is now saying that kids are better off in school. But I will tell you, and again, this, from my years as a building principal, as an assistant superintendent, who had to work with our head nurse at the time to get kids back to school, who become school, who have develop a school phobia. We really don't want to make it easy for kids to stay home. And again, for those of you that have been on the board, you've heard me say this for a while. It's very easy. You turn a camera on in the classroom. That's not the same as being in school. We don't want to make it easy. We don't want to punish kids either, by the way. Don't get me wrong, but we need to make sure that that it's legitimate. So I've got a couple of requests. I've asked them to start providing documentation, provide them to the principal. Based on the number of requests too, it will be much easier to develop a program. But all of the schools will have something in place. Other than that, we're going to get the word out as far as these changes tomorrow. We've gotten them out on some of our social media today, but we're going to finalize the letter tomorrow. I know that Jill Greco, who's our nursing supervisor, we had talked about prior to getting a word out, there's a meeting tomorrow with DPH and with other health advisors. So she kind of wanted to just see what everybody else is doing before we finalize what the rules are. But it looks like we're going to follow the guidelines. And again, I think that's what we should do as far as the recommendations. Let's hope that if the rate stays like it is, we'll be able to get through the next few weeks, which I'm hoping is all we'll have to get through. If it goes up higher or there are some shortages, we'll take it one day at a time. But, again, our goal is to get the kids coming to school and to keep them in their routines, keep the structure. We've been, I know Judy has said, let's make it fun for kids. To be in school, let's make it fun. If there's not a full class, let's do what we can to keep them engaged and to make it fun. And they may have to go a couple of days or a few days without their regular classroom teachers. Those kinds of things we can deal with. And again, I can't thank our teachers enough today. There's a lot of coverage going on. Our administrators were right on the ball and made sure that the scheduling and planning was good. Obviously we have a couple of administrators who are positive, so they're out. Again, it's the percentage what you would expect across the board, roughly. Again, I think it's good news because I was really expecting the numbers to be much higher today, especially with staff. They really rose to the occasion. No, and if those of you that know Craig Wickley is the biggest worry word. He called me at 7 o'clock. I thought he said 4 with that were positive, but that's not bad. And again, if you know Craig, that means he was driving the bus, his wife was driving the bus, his son was driving the bus. They make do.
Are you fifth on the list? Because you might get some.
You know what? I don't have the license, fortunately, but, you know, whatever it takes, we'll get the kids to school.
Well, thank you so much for the presentation. I think that was a lot of information for us that really helps us understand what's going on. And, you know, I was thinking about it over the break. I was terribly sick, and I was thinking about, you know, potentially having COVID. Thankfully, I did not. And all the exposures that are going on. And I was thinking about our staff and how much effort that they have put in. And the word that stuck with me, thinking about all the staff of the Board of Education was agile. The agility that the students and the teachers and the staff and the administrators have exhibited is extraordinary. To be able to flip from one thing to the next thing, to the next protocol, to the next. And I just can't thank them enough and be in admiration of them for that level of agility that has been unprecedented.
You know, I'm going to tell you this. I thought exactly the same thing. But there's a saying that runs through my mind. And actually, Pat Riley, for those who know the old Laker coach, and whatnot, his book years ago had all little phrases which when I was coaching, I used to write them all down. And one of it was, we practice hard to make it easy. That these guys are really good at what they do. And you're right, they're able to adjust on the fly to make things look really easy, but there's a lot of work that goes on behind the scenes. So thank you for that. Judy, I don't know if you want to introduce.
Jen, so are the students, they're marked as quarantined when they're sick? It's not considered a regular absence?
That is correct. When we quarantine, and Dana can talk more to the Power School notes. But by the way, today, one of the things we did, I don't know if I answered your question or not, and I'll let Dana, but we said if somebody made a request today for remote learning, and we weren't prepared for it just because it was our first day back, excuse the absence, and at the end of the year, they qualify for first attendance, they qualify. We don't want to punish kids.
To piggyback on Jen's question, do we differentiate between quarantining for exposure and isolating for illness? Because, you know, there's two separate, you should be quarantining if you were exposed and then isolating if you're ill.
So the short answer for that, on the forward-facing side, we don't want, it's a lot of people that forward-facing side. Not that there's anything to be embarrassed about having COVID, viral illness, but there are still some people who are just sensitive to having people know that their child is COVID positive. So there's nothing on the forward-facing head that distinguishes between them. That part is their login, and they're not supposed to be, but that's not forward-facing. But we are not providing active quarantine for us. To follow up on that, are they penalized for school attendance and maybe for not coming to attendance if they are staying home for stress or flu or any other illness other than COVID? So parents are allowed to document the first time. Well, the state actually requires that. You also understand that because a lot of times are not necessarily always discussion after said, just call whatever. So the parent can put it in writing, with that kind of parent document to have. And that can be get ready. State doesn't require writing. So there is a differentiation between open and other. And then the second question is for staff. Do staff have to use sick days when they're?
They do now. In fact, last year there was a period of time where we did excuse the absences if they were COVID related. But I want to say last spring when they changed some rules, once the vaccinations came into play, they have to use sick time. I did have a conversation today with Kristen Scanlon, who's the president of the teachers union, because she asked if we would reinstitute that. And I said, again, for now, let's take it on on a case-by-case basis. And one of the things we were able to do last year is if a teacher were quarantined or had to isolate or had a low immune system, we were able to give them maybe an additional assignment, like, do some remote learning from home and whatnot. I don't know that I have that now, not that I can't use them, but I think for the short amount of time they're going to be out, it's not worth setting up an entire program. But right now, yes, they do use sick time, and that was changed from last spring with the vaccination.
So even though there is vaccination eligible for children, that policy hasn't changed for the kids.
Keep in mind, we didn't change the policy. That was, I believe, a directive from the State Department of Education or the Health Department.
I'm just asking.
No, listen, I think that's a good question. And here's what I'll tell you. Again, we're pretty reasonable, we're pretty sympathetic. If it's a staff member, if it's a student that comes to us and says, here are the circumstances that led us to where we are. I think, all of the bargaining units will say, and feels pretty kind when it comes to, he's on a sick time, and hey, what's the reason, let's look back. I don't think that we would punish. Again, our goal is not to punish people. I think that's the best way I can say it. But we'll continue those conversations with you too. And hopefully by the time we finish them, we'll be over the hump with this variant. With anybody else? Thank you. For sure.
So like, first one, that first that, I know that they are inundated with texts and emails and everything. This is going out to parents tomorrow.
It might actually even be out on some of our spots today. It'll go out in an email form tomorrow. Again, we were originally going to hold it until tomorrow, until after Jill had a conference with DPH. But I think when I saw Jill actually send it to Michael Ryan, who's our communications director, she said, she wanted it to go out. So we got it out on some of our sites, but not all of them. But we'll get it out tomorrow.
And so it says test for COVID-19 practice active exposure. Is that a mandate that if someone is back and exposed, that they have to test in order to return now, whereas last week before it was
Here's what I think what you're asking is if they were under the old rules, can we change it to the new rules and they can return to school? Well, we've had a couple of those today, and we said yes, return to school.
Okay, and then so someone who is vaccinated by the school previously would not have to quarantine or isolate or test to return to work or to school. They would be able to just kind of monitor their symptoms without their.
Well, hopefully they would be symptom free,
Yes.
and they'd have to come back with the mask.
Right, so they are still able to do that with your vaccinated individuals, you not need to test on the body to be able to.
That's my understanding, because you wear the mask. Again, one thing I think you'll learn is that if I'm not the expert, I don't have the answer to get you, but I have to tell you, and Kim, you know this, because we had some correspondences, the way they kept firing out the changes in the rules. I said, I'm never going to understand this by Tuesday or by Monday, but fortunately we made it to the day, and I think we've got a good plan going forward, and that sheet's actually pretty good. That's why I gave it to you guys, because I thought, it's simple enough where you can follow it.
Good evening, everybody. The end of last year, we were looking at our students and started thinking about what we need to do for them in the following year, which is the beginning of this year. But we also have summer programs. We've always had a program for special needs, and we thought, well, let's use some of our summer programs and let's put them together and attend to the EL, some of the kids that were struggling last year. If we could even get some of the kids that were doing remote, we tried to do that too. So we did put together some programs during the summer. With that in mind, and the kids coming back, we thought, okay, let's look at our kids coming in. We looked at some baseline data. We looked at the skills, especially, you know, children that were doing remote learning. And we decided to put some programs in place in the fall too. This is a K-12 initiative that we did. The summer programs address some of the kids from K-12, and the ones during the school year that you're going to hear about that Marissa's going to share with you. Those are for our elementary kids. What we did was we had different programs. Marissa helped us out with some of them. Raphael Cron put in some. We had STEM programs. Colin Bennett helped us with some. Stefania, Dr. Lariazzo, she also was responsible for some of the programs. Right now we have some great programs that Elisa Rice is working on with the elementary. So these supportive programs are working with the kids, engaging them, working with where they were, their basic skills, and getting them so that they're working on grade level. We know that there's gaps, and it's going to take time to get some of these kids back on a level that we would like to. We're looking for growth, and we're looking to keep them engaged in school, and that's what many of the programs did. So Marissa's going to share some of the programs, starting with what happened during the summer and into the fall.
That's because you're so agile.
Be careful, because
So what I put together for you, and I think what I'd like to do, if it's okay, is maybe just focus on a little bit of what we've done because we had a lot of information shared tonight, and I have a lot of information that I could share. As you know, I was a speech and language pathologist before this, so I can talk. And I would talk if you gave me the floor for long. So I'm going to shorten my information for you. And I just want to kind of give you an overview of what we've done to kind of prepare for learning acceleration and to kind of look at the learning recovery, as well as really think about our population and how do we support our learners this year. So one of the things that I'm most excited that we did this year is develop our outreach team. And I don't know if we're all aware, but we have outreach that spans from high school down to elementary this year. And you'll see right on the first page, I kind of outlined where everybody is. And we're really fortunate. We have a very diverse team, and they are doing a ton of work. They are boots on the ground. They are going to houses. They are talking about engaging kids. We're going out and we're finding you. If you're not coming to school, you're going to see somebody's face at your door. And we're going to find out why you're not coming and what we can do to get you there. The approach has been very successful because these outreach workers have been kind of staples of our school environment. They're coaches. Monty Reynolds, I would be remiss if I did not know that he was our unsung hero last year, and he does make me call him Mr. Unsung Hero, just for the record. So he's one of our outreach workers, and he's got a really wonderful way. Damon puts it so nicely. He's got, I'm not going to call him grandfatherly, but grandfather-esque way of kind of convincing some of our, some of our contingencies that are not easily convinced that this is the time to come back. And what we really need is somebody to make a connection with families, with the students. And it has been an uncertain time, and it has been difficult to convince kids who've been isolated at home that school is the place they need to be. They've gone to the workforce, or they've had loss or trauma. To get them back to school to what's best for them, if we have an outreach worker that can find that connection, we're much more apt to get by. And so engagement is what we focused on when we were kind of thinking about this year. And it's been really great. We have a couple of bilingual outreach workers. We were very fortunate to find a woman who speaks both Pashto and Dari, because we do have a large influx of resettled immigrants and refugees this year. So we've really done a great job. They've done a great job of reconnecting with our families. So I encourage you to, if you're in the buildings, kind of take a look around, because you'll see that work. It's quiet, but it's being done very, very well. I'm going to just kind of, from that point, I wanted to focus on that, but I'll just kind of give you a very small overview of what summer looked like.
Summer was a lot of activity. If you were on the campus here, you would have seen a camp going on, I think, almost every single day. We had sports camps. We had EL-specific camps for students who needed kind of instruction to close those gaps from being out of school. We targeted students that had distance learning issues, you know, they weren't working on, or they were distance learners for the entire year. We wanted those kids to really get a robust instruction. So we focused a lot on camps that would be project-based, things that would be interesting, things that would get kids really excited about learning. And, you know, I think that we did a nice job. STEM was a big hit, a forensics camp. We had a theater camp, we had a high stepping camp. We did our younger populations. We did, you'll see on the back, that's a bridge that the community house in our collaborative project built with the students with gumdrops and toothpicks. And I featured that because it's really intricate, and those kids came up with that themselves. I watched them collaborate. And these were students that were chosen because they weren't on school for the year. So when they came back, collaborated, worked together on a project while wearing a mask in the heat, we said, this is why we did this, because kids needed to remember what learning was like. And they got really excited. We did do some exit surveys, and it was a really exciting kind of group of kids to look through, because their initial reaction when we said, how do you feel about coming back? Sad faces, red crayons, you know, I don't want to go back to school, it's not safe, I'm not okay. The exit surveys, we had a lot of green smiles, you know, colored in, because kids felt like they were kids again. You know, they got a lot of playtime, they got a lot of creative opportunities, and they got peer interaction. So I really commend Community House did an extraordinary job collaborating with our staff on that, and they're doing it again this summer. We already got the green light, you know, they'll do it, they've liked the grant. So I would like to kind of save all of these other after school opportunities and things we're doing, and maybe have some of the evidence to show you kind of what the learning looks like at a later time in January. But for tonight, I just kind of wanted to leave you with a high note of what our staff is doing really, really well.
I can just comment too. One of the things that Judy and I thought was important with Marissa is, like we were telling you why we thought it was important to have medical factors. We wanted to let you know that we understood that there were challenges going into this year, and we have done really a lot of creative and nice things to try to meet ways to be able to, for the most part, successful. So it's not, you know, it's not all about, you know, what's not happening. Good things happening. See a lot of extra funding because we do the work. I think these are the things that we put the money we would use to meet.
One other comment I'd like to make. Thank you to all the people that put it together. Again, it shows our staff coming and working during summer school, after hours, you know, the teachers and the administrators that have helped out really put a lot of time into
And conceptualized it. Many of the camps were conceptualized by staff that work with us who kind of step forward and say, I have this skill set in this area and I really want an opportunity to showcase it. And I think because they were coming to the table with a passion for what they know and what they enjoy, it was very contagious. And the kids felt like this is an obligation, this is an opportunity, which is really what we want to take.
It was a great opportunity. Really proud of it. It's a great way to get kids on this and families on this campus to see the new school, check out the science labs, and sports facilities, and the classrooms in general. So you know, we really want to use these programs to promote the high school as well.
Great job.
Thank you very much. Pretty lengthy.
Excellent presentations. I see that we do not have our student reps here tonight, so we will skip to board.
One from the chair. Perhaps we talked to Kate about virtual certification of those responsibilities.
Yes, I was actually going to talk to that after the meeting. I was hoping to get them to come in,
special meeting. Yeah, for sure, I think that's a great idea.
One thing with more staff is sorry, this is a part of the I think the answer is like talk about what's the floor, within the forms, the guardrail, whether it's metal or wood, to protect the students, teachers, and the investment in the tennis courts. Obviously, when the warmer weather, we're able to use it. And if we can do it there, sometimes the kids forget that the streets are wide. And we're watching stuff well, and trying to protect the lights and the car and also the at the same time protect the investment in the courts. And everything else.
We've actually-
Whether it's metal or extension of wood. Just continue non-educational way. Safe from the bridge. Just to be able to protect, just to protect the students and the investment.
It's funny because around the Great Passion was really nice. They put the rails up, and we had talked about actually finishing the job, actually through the pool, across that area from where the pool is. So we talked about that. There's got to be some landscape. Sidewalks on the one side here. But one of the things actually filled up the project. It's a state road. On the first side, where the park courts are, if they can exit the educational way, we're waiting for condition. Then that's what the road is going to look like. That will determine the landscape.
That answered my question about making it not a country road anymore.
Ken is really a big advocate. I am too. I just don't know how to get it done. We'd like to close, if possible, close the road during the day, which I don't think would be an inconvenience to people in the community, because it would just simply be going to Flat Avenue, up to Captain Comes for, the less we can, less people have access, the better it is, the safer it is. We talked about that, maybe going to the police commission or starting with zoning or whatnot. Once we finish the project, once we finish the project of the landscaping out in front, it's something that we really talk a lot about. People can come in and out here during the day, safer is for kids.
Okay, great. Thank you.
When you come on the news, I hear about the process of days that might do for
So I was for setting expectations. We are. Curious when the last time. Were you asking me questions?
No, yeah, this is, so I was asking if you had anything you wanted to address with the board, so
Yeah,
you're absolutely on track.
Sorry.
Nope, you're on track.
So I was wondering, number one, do we have a personal committee and when was the last?
Pat was the chair of the curriculum thing on the
First of all, let me say this. In general, I've had a conversation with our board attorney on another matter. Our policies are fairly updated, so things like that would need to be, we need to update our policies in general. Talk more specifically about curriculum, what we do. We look at state guidelines and standards, and that's what we do. It is ever evolving.
Right now, that starts, we're constantly looking at it, and every year we address it according to the needs to it. Revise and adjust for it.
I think one of the things that we should probably do in addition to the special presentation is we can give status of the various subjects. We do that might lead to discussions, I think, like this, we do this. Make sure, as long as it's all in line, we can do that. That's actually.
And we'll reset those committees now that we have a new board seated. I'll be sending out an email to see like what you might be interested in. It sounds like you're interested in curriculum. So, there's usually, I think, 3 board members on each committee. So we can set that up and start those committee meetings. Usually they'll hold them 15 minutes before the regular board meeting or call a special meeting if they have something linked to what they want. We'll definitely get that set up soon.
But I'll ask in October. I believe it was an October board meeting that happened.
She asked for a meeting, I don't know if we got to it, I don't know, because, you know, the election cycle and the old board ending and the new board coming on, but certainly some should be back.
Reviewing the list, I know it's just for information about, you know, retiring, like we talked for a really long time was. I don't know if we ever do exit surveys or I saw that Marissa, you had done the engagement survey about like creating a healthier community here, and I think that that's fantastic. I didn't know if we ever do anything like that with staff who are retiring. How do we retain people? You know, how are we doing with essentially with worker happiness and teacher happiness and that culture and that climate. And I thought all of that. Okay.
One of the other things I want to add to that is we do have a lot of new teachers first and second year. And of course, last year and this year is not normal for, you know, if you're becoming a teacher. So what we're doing is we're doing a roundtable for our brand new teachers. We're going to be meeting with them actually, I think it's next week. And with that, we're going to have veteran teachers work with them and get out some of the questions, concerns. What would you like more professional development on? What would you like support on? We got a lot of new mentors this year for the students, new teachers that are coming in, and we're pairing them up and helping them out in that way. So we're looking in all different directions and supporting our staff because, you know, happy teacher, happy kids. So we want to make sure that we touch all bases.
Really, retaining our new priority for our district. There's such a shortage out there, and there's so many options, especially all the COVID one, and the new positions that have been created. So it really has been a priority. Kids, how teachers doing what, especially in the
That's actually that's not the highest indicator of job satisfaction. It's not money. I just recently read an article about feeling appreciated for the work you do is the #1 job retention, whether you stay or go. And money was like third. So while it is important, don't get me wrong, we certainly need to make sure that we're paying our teachers competitively. But it definitely wasn't the #1 thing. I think the support is really important, especially in these times. But please don't mistake that comment for the fact that I think that we need to pay our teachers money. Because I always say that.
Again, what I'll say is
For the number of teachers we're talking about, really want.
Staff members, and as a whole, I think that the staffing was a good job of being flexible to the changes in our curriculum, the investment facing that, understanding what our kids need, not only academically, but social and emotionally. I think that's been a really big focus for our staff this year, and I know final two that are in school, they feel really excited to go to school, and that's a testament to it. I appreciate it as much, and that was and I think this morning I was able to come to the outside in the cold with the kids, and I watched them all come in, and it was getting used to knowing what to do, knowing to take care of us, your phone after that, your pocket, your keys, they're cleaning your backpack and getting ready. And kind of like it is on the first day of school with the buses, it was like that. The buses run late on the first day of school. By day 4 and day 5, everybody's on their schedule, and I anticipate that that's probably be the same. They did a nice job of being flexible, they were respectful, they were cooperative. They did a really nice job of this.
It's a roll call from the high school.
Okay.
I said all I needed to say earlier about the agility of the staff, and I think Kim's statement backs that up. So I just want to say thank you again. Welcome back from your holiday break. Hopefully everybody stays healthy and has a healthy new year. Next on the agenda is D1 approval of minutes. There is D1A, the Board of Education meeting from November 15th. I'll entertain a motion to approve. Second, motion by Bob, second by Patrick. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes. D1B, the Board of Education organizational meeting from December 13th at 6 p.m. I'll entertain a motion to approve. First by Andrea, seconded by Kim. Any discussion? That was like a 4-minute meeting, so I don't expect there was any discussion. Congratulations to those on new positions, welcome to our new board members. All in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions? D3 is new hires. We have 21-132 and 21-134. I'd like to entertain a motion to do those all inclusively. Second. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions? D4, new business. The D4 is a field trip permission form that is attached. For Weston High School, for the softball team's trip to Milford, Massachusetts. That's the side that's from my husband's. From on 4/29 to 4/30.
Just, again, it's an overnight trip.
Yep.
Or, looking is the source. In case there have any questions.
I don't have any questions. Does anybody else have any questions?
Sorry, I didn't hear you.
Would the educational unit or essential question being addressed on this trip?
Well, we're going to be going to Boston College. Spend an information trip, stadium, Boston College. Play the following day, and we hit 6 months. Something we've done.
Is there an attached sheet that we're?
You know, I
made a copy if you don't have one, it just needs it.
So we have the agenda, but it says briefly state unit covered in essential question being answered.
No, I think we need there as an agenda for the trip, correct?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think it's attached.
You don't have that?
Yeah, no, it wasn't attached to it.
Don't worry about Joe. Also, again, this is a general field report. And I want to say, Joe, the kids aren't missing school, this is the weekend. Correct? So, we've done it past a free trip. Didn't really get a lot out of it.
Got a little Christmas carol. Andrea's home. My kids do that. So they're not really missing much school time since they're leaving at 1 o'clock, correct?
Yeah, that's just trying to get out of there before it's possible.
Yep.
That's all that is.
And they have a game up there on Saturday morning, correct?
The actual team's coming with us to Boston College to the team of playing.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
We'll get to see the school. Okay, so, motion to approve the field trip for the softball team. By Kim, seconded. Second by Bob. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions? On the trip? And the rest of the agenda is informational.
Yeah, just under information, we're hiring, which is a really good thing for the school district. Lost extensions here to make. Welcome her. Worked some games for us already, and it's really, Joe has really fought hard to get the full-time. I think we're really one of the only schools in the SEC that didn't have one. Should be available year round, so it comes on camps. It's a really bad feature to have for the safety of the kids who are on
Welcome out.
It's also cost efficient because what she couldn't cover, there's 2 games going on at once, another game going higher than, so it's getting a little crazy, so she's covering more games as well.
Great. Thank you so much, welcome aboard. I just did want to say, thank you for your service to the students and welcome to your new service to the students in just a different capacity. I'm sure you'll be listening to daily, but I'm sure you'll make sure the stops over there as well. As well as there were several other long-term teachers that have been hired, and as well as Eileen Hill from Bailey. I know she's put in many, many years and took great care of my kids while they were over there. So I hope they all enjoy a happy, healthy, and long retirement. I will entertain a motion to adjourn. 7:13, seconded by Andrea. And then we'll take up her.